All right, thought I'd do another video about just things that might be interesting to self-taught guitarists. Um, as someone who never plays jazz and who has no formal education in it, I still like to try to learn about it as much as possible because I find that a lot of things I learn about it, I can actually apply to um, singer-songwriter music, acoustic music, folk, country, the situations I find myself in most of the time when backing up other people. Um, and one of the really cool things that I've learned from delving a bit into jazz is chord substitutions. I've never gone past page 13 in this book. It's called The Jazz Harmony Book by David Berkman. But I've gotten a lot from the first 13 pages. And page 13 talks about chord substitutions. When you think about what a substitute is, it's a placeholder for what's normally there, right? Like you normally have a teacher, but if they're sick, you'll get a chord substitute. You'll get a class substitute, right? And that substitute can perform the same function, but it might feel different. Same thing with chords. Now, how does this connect to jazz and singer-songwriter? Well, when you think about most folk songs, they're usually what we call 1-4-5 progression. For example, in the key of C, you have a C, an F, and a G. The C is your 1 chord, the F is your 4 chord, the G is your 5 chord. The reason we assign these numbers to it is when you think about a C major scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. The first note is a C, the fourth note is an F, and the fifth note is a G. So when you extrapolate those out to be not just single notes, but chords, you can still use that numerical system to describe the chords. Why is this useful? Because you could describe a chord progression without ever having to describe the actual name of the chords. And that's useful if people are changing keys, right? I could say it's a 1-4-5. Maybe the singer is sick that night and they want to do it in a different key. Well, if I understand this structure, I can just think, okay, well, I'm in E instead of C, but I know E is my 1, A is my 5, A is my 4, B is my 5. Anyways, chord substitutions are really interesting because what they do is they take a chord that shares similar notes with the chord that's normally there, but they give a bit of a different feeling in its place, kind of like we were describing earlier with substitutes, right? Substitute teachers. So this can be useful because I think something that maybe the more creatively inclined singer-songwriters are doing is they're trying not to sound like everybody else, right? So mixing up your chord progressions and deviating a bit away from 1-4-5 can sometimes make your song stand out if you're not overthinking it. Now, really quick, physically, I just want to show what I mean by like how easy it is even to see on a guitar how chords can share similar notes. Like, for example, let's do like a C chord. Everyone knows a C chord, right? Here's an A minor 7 chord. All that's happening in the A minor 7 is that I'm adding another note. It's A, E, G, and C, instead of just C, E, and G. There's 4 chords, there's 4 notes, but these are both C, right? So C, E, G, C, A, E, G, C, right? When you physically look at those 2 chords on the guitar, you can see that they share a bunch of notes. So to make it extremely simple, the Berkman book talks about tonic, subdominant, and dominant chords. We don't need to know about that. Tonic is your 1, subdominant is your 4, and dominant is your 5. So if you want to replace your 1 chord with something a little bit more interesting, and this can be dangerous in a song because sometimes starting on something other than the 1 can be really destabilizing, but maybe you'll use the 1 first and then you'll, next time it comes around, you want to do something else. Something you can use instead of the 1 is the 3. So instead of a C, I could use an E minor. Or you could also use the 6, which is A minor. Again, I'm getting these numbers by just conceptualizing a major scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and then assigning numbers under each of those, and then I can just pick out from the numbers. Now, the useful thing I talked about in my last lesson is to know the order of the chord qualities in that scale. So your 1 is major, your 2 is minor, your 3 is minor, your 4 is major, your 5 is major, your 6 is minor, your 7 is diminished. And the easy way to think about that is your 1, 4, and 5 are major. Everything else is minor, with the exception of the 7, which is a minor 7 flat 5. So if you want to replace your 1 with something more interesting, try the 3 or the 6. Both are going to be minor. So if you're in the key of C, your 3 is E minor, and your 6 is A minor. But let's say you're in the key of G, your 3 is B minor, and your 6 is E minor. I hope that makes sense. So let's say you want to do a chord substitution for your 4 chord. It's going to be even simpler. Replace it with a 2. So in the key of C, instead of going to an F, you could go to a D minor, right? I've never done this before, but let's see how this works. I'm going to do My Girl, and instead of going to the 4, I'm going to go to the 2. I've got sunshine on a cloudy day. So it works, right? It's a little weird. I got sunshine on a cloudy day. But it sounds good. We could get more extreme. Maybe I'll make my 1 into a 6. And then my 4 into a 2. I've got sunshine on a cloudy day. I'm not changing my vocal melody at all, but I'm shifting the chords underneath it. Now you could get really out there with this, and a song I often use as an example is Townes Van Zant's I'll Be There in the Morning, sometimes recorded as I'll Be Here in the Morning. It's generally played like this. It's a 1, no stronger wind than the one that blows down the 4, lonesome railroad, back to 1 line. No prettier sight than looking back on a 2, town you left behind, to a 5, right? So we got 1, 4, 1. 1, 2, 5. So on that one, I'm thinking, okay, well, I'll start on a 3 instead of on a 1. And then I'm going to kind of break a rule and move up to a 4. And then I'll go to a 2, then a 4, then a 1. So instead of no stronger road than the one that leads down a lonesome railroad line, it sounds like there's no stronger road than the one that leads down a lonesome railroad line. Right? Pretty fancy. No, I'll stay on the 1. Prettier sight than. Now I'm normally going to go to a 4. Why don't I go to a 2 instead? Then looking back on a town you left behind. Now here's where we get to. Actually, that would have been cooler. Was a prettier sight than looking back on a town you left behind. A prettier sight than looking back. Anyways, that brings us to your 5, your dominant. The chord in your major chord scale that you can substitute for a 5 is your 7. Your 7 chord is typically played diminished, but something that can make any of these chords more interesting is instead of just playing your 3 as a minor or your 2 as a minor, you can play them as minor 7s. Which is on the guitar a very easy thing to do. If your minor chord is 7, 9, 9, 8, you change it to 7, 9, 7, 8, right? Same thing with if you want to make a major into a major 7, you'd go from like 8, 10, 10, 10 into 8, 10, 9, 10. That's what I was doing on that Townes Van Zant song. No stronger wind than the one that blows down. No stronger wind than the one that blows down, right? If it was normal, it would just be no stronger wind than the one that blows down. But it adds some complexity in there. So if you want to know your like a good shape for a minor, for your diminished chord, let me put it this way. So I was saying you could use minor chords, and if you want to make them more fancy, you can turn them into minor 7s. You can do the same thing to a diminished chord. You can turn it into a minor 7 flat 5. So that chord would look like this. Like here's a B, right? if we're just on our inner string set, so we're not using our high E or our low E, low E or our high E. A B would normally be 2, 4, 4, 4, right? Now, let's look at the chord name, minor 7, flat 5. So let's shift the chord according to how it's being classified. So there's a B. If it was going to be a minor 7, well, there's a B minor. We know how to make it into a minor 7. Instead of 2, 4, 4, 3, it's 2, 4, 2, 3, right? So now we got a 2, 4, 2, 3, but there's one thing in the name we haven't addressed yet. We've done the minor 7, but we haven't done the flat 5. So how do you figure out how to flat the 5? Well, look at a minor scale. It's a minor chord. Look at a minor scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the 5th. All you have to do is flat it to right here. So if your B minor is 2, 4, 2, 3, your minor 7 flat 5 is 2, 3, 2, 3. Now when you think about that chord 2, 3, 2, 3, it shares a lot in common with like maybe a G7, 3, 2, 3, 0, 0, 1, right? They both have this thing going on there, right? So another way in which looking at shapes on the guitar can sort of show you this stuff from a less theoretical standpoint, right? So that's the final piece of the puzzle. If you want to substitute something for a 5, which can also be kind of dangerous, you can use the minor 7 flat 5. And you do that to the 7th note in the scale. I'm trying to think of like, it'd be kind of a destabilizing thing to try, but let's see what's a song with a 5 in it? Well, let's just go back to the Townes Van Zandt one. There's no stronger wind than the one that blows down a lonesome railroad line. No prettier sight than looking back on the town you left behind. There we go. So that's normally a G. Town you left behind, right? Instead, I'm going to go to B, which is the 7th note in the scale. I'm going to make it a minor 7 flat 5. The town you left behind. And if that's too much for you, you can always take the chord substitution and resolve it into the chord that it's being substituted for. So like, town you left behind, right? It's a really fun, simple way of just opening up new directions in your music. So to recap, try replacing your 1s with 3s and with 6s. Try replacing your 4s with 2s. And if you're adventurous, try replacing your 5s with minor 7 flat 5 versions of the 7 chord. I hope that all made sense. Okay.